Hello, hello. Good morning. I am out here making a couple more of these. I've made these so far. They are little zipper pouches with different types of material. And these two obviously are opposite on the insides and outsides. Basically what I have been doing is I really like this kind of fabric. It's a thicker, almost like drapery style fabric. Gives a little bit more body to it instead of being so thin. Gives a little bit more of a thickness to it. And also it just feels better. The material itself has a little bit more texture to it than so much more flat cotton texture to it. The main outside body colors has a fuser backing, and I just put it on there, cut the backing, the fuser a little bit bigger than normal, and I am using this fuser right here. Comes in sell it by the yard, and it is Pelon style number 808, and it's fusible. One side shiny, has a shiny texture to it, the other side is dull. And I'm going to be using this skull candy, or candy skull, as my interior. What I decided to do is just put the fuser on there, and then what I do is I go back around afterwards and I will just cut out the fuser right down the edge of the material. And actually, prepping your actual work materials is the most time. Stitching it, doing all that, that's pretty easy. I shouldn't say easy, but pretty fun. This is the work that you have to do to get to be able to have that fun. Just like anything else you do, there's time and energy and effort and thought that goes into making it happen prior to it actually happening. So once I get this cut out, I'll come back. So I'd like to give a quick shout out to Melanie Ham, I Heart Stitching. She is the one that I actually follow directions on this, and have been making these off of her directions. She does a great job, so thank you very much for the information and passing on the knowledge. So basically what you do now is something that I do different than she does, a couple things I do different than she does. One is I actually fuse the backing, the fuser to the actual material itself to begin with, so it's one less layer I have to think about. It's already automatically done. So the first thing it does, you do is you lay down the fabric facing up, with the right side facing up towards you. This is going to be my inside liner, the skull candy. So I start with the zipper pull part of the zipper. Pretty much you want to check out your zipper a couple times, make sure it actually works, because sometimes products that are $1.49 at Walmart don't work the best. But your zipper goes down on here, and you want to keep everything equidistant. So you don't want to have this way over here like this and have not enough space over here. So basically that goes down straight along this edge here, just like this. And all of them that I've made so far, I put the zipper pull actually down facing towards me. That way I get a good start. And I typically will stop right around here and just do a quick back stitch, and then take it actually off the machine, unzip the zipper down over to here, and that way I can continue going. I learned how to sew, started learning how to sew when I was actually in Home and Careers class back in the day. And we used pins, and I still use pins, so I have little push pins here that I use. So the inside lining material goes face down now. So essentially you have the fuser, you have your outer material facing up, your zipper with the zipper pull facing down towards the table, and the pull itself facing down towards me, then the inside lining facing down. And you want to put all these together in a nice beautiful little line, all the edges lined up together, perfect, as perfect as you can get all the way around, and basically pin those up and we'll start the stitch. I'll come back when that's all done. Alright, so we're all pinned up here and ready to go. I have my fuser backing, I have my outer layer of fabric facing up, I have my zipper inside there facing down, and I also have my outer, my inner liner now facing down, with the right side facing down. And everything is all lined up, so I'm going to go ahead and do a straight stitch. It's set at 3, and the needle is straight up and down. And I'm working on a high countertop here, so my presser foot's like kind of balancing, hanging in the air, kind of sorta, just touching the floor. So I don't have the best control over being able to slow down and speed up properly. So basically I don't have a zipper foot as well right now, so I can feel where the zipper is in here. The edge of the zipper is right here, so I'm going to be running a line right between probably about 1/8 of an inch, yeah, right on the edge right here where my fingernail is where I run the thread, right there. So let's get doing this, see how it looks. I don't know where my little tomato is. There we go. And these needles draw blood, so if you feel like giving blood, just work with these needles, because twice right there yesterday and somewhere on one of my fingertips, right in, oh, my thumb right there. So yeah. Oops. Sorry about that. So make sure everything stays lined up properly. So right there is about where I'll stop, and I will then open this up, get to the zipper, and open the zipper to the other end, and then just close this right back up. And then I'll pick up right where I left off, but always double check to make sure that everything's still in line, because you want all your edges and seams and the fabric to line up and all that kind of good stuff. So I just start here where I left off, do one quick back stitch, and then keep on going. And that is, that's it right there. So where I started and stopped is right there. So now I have this beautiful edge. And then that is going to be the lining. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go press this out, snip off all these pieces, and get ready for the next step here. So the next step we're going to do is the same exact way we did before. The interfacing I already have on the outer material. That goes face up, The zipper pull, same way as before, is going face down, except this time it's the zipper pull is actually to my left, or facing away from me. So what I do is I pull this all the way down once I get it zipped, or once I get it pinned in, because trying to do it like this and trying to put it there and pin it in, it's kind of a pain in the butt. So just do this with it. That goes face down along the edge. You want all these edges to line up over here as well. So everything has to line up perfect. And then this goes facing down on top of that. So I have the outer material with the fuser. On the edge of that I have the zipper. Excuse me, on the edge of that I have the outer facing material down, and that gets all pinned together. And you want to make sure that all these edges are lined up. These edges will not line up right now, but these edges have to line up, otherwise you're going to have you'll have this instead of having a nice edge where the material and everything lines up right here, you will have this look down here, which this is the first one I ever made, so I cut the zipper too short, and I learned. But you'd have this where the material is up there and down there. It wouldn't line up. So you can see that the material here lines up right there, and over here a little bit off, but so I will get this pinned in place, and I will stitch this down the same way I did the other one, and then I will show you the next step. Alright, so that side is stitched down. One thing I just noticed about fabrics, which I really wasn't paying attention to prior, is these don't really line up too well right here. I have half this little shape here, and then I have the inner part of it. So this doesn't line up. But for some reason when I flip this over, these completely line up. So something to just be conscious of, you know, for the outside fabric, not so much for the inside fabric, but if this was like this and this was the zipper, that would look really like I meant to do that, which I did not. But now I know to be somewhat conscious of it for next time. Always try to perfect what you do. Always try to learn, if every time you do something, learn from that to make the next step, the next one. Alright, so I just went down and put a stitch down each side of the zipper, and now I am going to basically just fold it inside out. I'm going to fold it inside out, and all I've been doing is lining up all my edges and just stitching all the way down, around, and over with the zipper open. That way I can flip it right side out. And yes, you have a little tiny bit of like a 1/4 of an inch of material that I cut off and trim around. I do about a 1/2 inch, about a 1/2 of an inch stitch allowance, so I have my stitch probably come through right about here. I'm going to trim off about a 1/4 of an inch all the way around, so I do have a little bit of, like, you know, raw edge showing on the bottom, but I think it actually keeps the liner, the outer shell together better, and it's a lot less work, whereas everybody else, you know, Melanie does this and basically stitches all the way down and around, and then gets to here, leaves a big open space, flips the whole, inverts the whole entire thing, and then comes back and stitches that back up, that one little bit back up. Looks good. I don't know, I kind of like just doing it like this and stitching all the way around and flipping it inside out, but you have to make sure the zipper is open when you do all that stitching, because otherwise you won't be able to flip it inside out. But there's the one little extra line I ran down. I'm happy with this. So, alright, so I decided to do exactly what they do on the other YouTube channels. Melanie Ham, how she does hers. I Heart Stitching. She basically, everybody goes around and leaves a space this big on the end over here. I started over here and just took off stitching. I had a straight line and wasn't even thinking. So I left an opening over here to be able to invert the whole entire thing. That's probably about all you need. So I'm going to go around and snip off my corners, you know, cut off the corners, trim a little bit closer so I have a little bit less fabric hanging out on the inside there. And I will show you what it all looks like when I'm done. And I use my leather working tool, my bone tool. I found is perfect to go up inside the corners to pop out the corners. When it comes time to do that, this tool for leather working goes right up inside there, and it works out perfect. So I am flipping this unit inside out, and because I went kind of crazy on the stitching part, when I first started sewing the bottom of the bag together, I went straight across. It actually is better to leave the opening on the bottom, and the reason why is you can't really get back in over here and really sew this baby back up properly. I mean, you can, but it's going to be kind of an awkward, you know. So here's what I wanted to demonstrate about getting the corners popped out. To pop out the corners really well, you can do it pretty well just by working it a little bit. And the corner pops out there, and let's get this other corner popped out over here. You can get them popped out pretty well, but I use this bone tool, and I go up inside there with the corner of the bone tool and push the corners out, and it just gives it that little bit of extra good looking corner, you know. Here, I'll show you over here. So you could work that and work it, but with a bone tool, you just kind of work both sides of the seam on the inside, and pops right out pretty darn well. So between the leather and the sewing machine, you can get those babies leather equipment and the sewing machine equipment, you can get some really nice beautiful products. So I'm going to go ahead and stitch up this edge right here that I left open. I'll fold it inside and stitch along there and flip it the rest of the way, iron it out, and I will show you. Then now I'll come back and show you the final product. Alright, so here is the final product. And I learned something else. I learned that these little tiny black little pieces that I keep finding on here that are kind of melted on onto my fabric, I figured out is actually the glue from this. So you do want to trim this to be exactly the same size as your material when you iron it on, because the glue will actually stick to the iron and then it leaves little residue markings on your fabric. So you learn. This one here is by far the best one I've ever made. The only mistake that I did make was I did not leave the bottom open. I left the side open on the inside. So I do have on the inside here, where is it? Well, this is good, I can't even find it. Here it is, where I had to stitch the pocket back up. I actually missed a little tiny spot right there, so I'm gonna have to go back and fix that little spot right there. But everything is all lined up perfectly, beautifully. The edges right here line up the fabric. The fabric over here lines up great. It functions, it works. The stitch lines are pretty darn straight along the edge here. Along the edge here, just extra, that's not even needed, just extra security, extra look. The corners popped out great, and I'm really happy with this.